My name is Wayne Luss, and I came here today because I wanted to discuss with you some issues that my son Albert is having. It seems like he is having some problems socializing with the other children in his classroom. I feel like interaction is very important and he's not getting enough of it. So I feel like when Albert is in the classroom, he kind of sits back and is not able to communicate with the children, and that's not fair. So I feel like the school should help Albert interact with the children.
What exactly would you like for us to do?
I think that offering a sign language class for kids to be able to learn Albert's language would be a great thing. And that way, everything would not need to go through the interpreter, but rather kids themselves could communicate and interact with him. And remember, kids learn so quickly. If they were to learn sign language, they would be able to pick it up quite easily. But right now, none of that is taking place.
Albert teach that sign language class?
My son would be able to teach that class, but I feel like maybe it would be better to have an outside person come in and teach. You know, you can contact different community centers to provide sign language teachers. And they need to have a good understanding and skill set to be able, to teach these kids communication skills. So I feel like that's something that needs to be addressed, and it's not right that Albert's not able to interact with the other children because of the language barrier that he faces.
I guess I'd have to write a letter to the center, because if they're deaf, they wouldn't have a telephone, right?
Well, you see, it wouldn't necessarily just be a facility that has deaf people only. There would be hearing people there possibly as well. And a TDD could be used to communicate. Are you familiar with that? A TDD is a wonderful device that deaf people use to communicate with hearing people, and it's something that I believe your school should have access to. Many hearing people feel like there cannot be communication with deaf people, but devices like a TDD help bridge that gap.
Okay, so deaf people can talk on the phone. Just I talk slowly, that's all?
Okay, so what you would do is you could use the relay system where you would call the relay service and they would then get in contact with the deaf person. So you would explain to them who you wanted to call and what your purpose for calling was, and they would be able to use the TDD to contact the deaf person and explain the situation. And it's really a simple process. And as far as my son Albert goes, the fact that the school does not have a TDD is really concerning to me, because he would not be able to contact me at home.
Do you have that telephone
if the need
number?
arose. Yeah, sure. That's the number there that you can go ahead and call, and you'll get connected directly to that service. So they'll answer, and you can kind of inform them who you would like to call, to give them the phone number, and then they will explain the process and make sure that everything's clear, that they understand what you want to communicate to the deaf person, and they will then pass the message on.
Well, which of these issues do you think would be the most important for me to start with first?
Really, I feel like there just needs to be deaf awareness spread about. I feel like people need to be educated. So in general, I feel like that's the issue that first needs to be addressed. And as far as a timeline for when these things need to happen, I do feel like that's the most important thing, that deaf awareness just needs to be spread. I feel like oftentimes there are negative feelings in relation to deaf people. And I don't feel like it needs to be that way. So I feel like that is where we kind of need to start.
May is Better Hearing and Speech Month. Do you think maybe we could wait and do that in May?
Really, the decision is ultimately up to you. But as far as us meeting today, my main concern is the problems that Albert, my son, is facing and his social interactions or the lack thereof. So I feel like that's something that needs to be addressed, and we need to focus on that. But then also, as far as, addressing these other topics, I don't feel like we need to wait a few months. I feel like they need to be addressed more quickly than that. No, deaf awareness, again, just needs to be spread around the community. And I feel like, in my opinion,
well, I would have to check the calendar and see when we have a work day. Perhaps we could have somebody come in and talk to the staff on a work day.
I would prefer something like a church assembly or a big meeting where everyone was able to attend, so everyone at once could get this information. The kids as well need to have an understanding of deaf awareness. They need to understand what to do if they have a deaf child in the classroom. So I feel like it would be better to have a huge assembly where all the people could come together and get information regarding this. So something more like a few weeks would be sufficient, I believe, rather than wait until May,
No, we have a work day November 11th.
So as far as the work day being on your schedule, I understand that. I guess I would just prefer that all people be informed, but really, that decision is up to you guys. But I feel like there's no general knowledge in regards to deaf people and their lives and their culture. I feel like there's this gap between hearing and deaf people, and it's important to bridge that gap and to kind of let the people know about deafness and how to interact with deaf people and everything involved with that.
Well, okay. I will see what I can do about arranging an assembly. Maybe we can start with an assembly and pull the whole school together and bring some deaf people in to talk and to share. We'll start with that and see how that goes, see what response we get. Well, I look forward to working with you, and I hope that we can make the situation better for Albert here at Moses Cone.
Well, remember, if you need anything, feel free to call me. If you have any questions or need any additional information regarding anything, you can email me and I will respond.
Well, thank you. I appreciate your support.